Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new video. We are going through every single book that I read in August and I'm going to give you a little review, tell you what I thought, share my opinions, but just going to discuss how I found these books. I ended up reading a total of 9 books in August. This isn't all of them. Some of them are on my Kindle. I will say, bit of a slower reading month for me. Usually I read at least 10, if not 11, 12, 13 books, but I think I'm still slacking. I have been in a kind of reading slump, I don't even know, slog. I've just been struggling with my reading since about May, June time, and I still haven't quite found my way back to what I was reading before, but it's okay. August, I was busy, I was working a lot, I didn't have a lot of spare time, so I feel like it's okay. I don't need to be hard on myself. I had a lot of good books this month. I had, I think, 2 5-stars and a lot in the 4-star sort of range. Also had some in the 1-star range, so it was a mixed bag this month. I feel like the books I read were either really good or really not good, so it'll be interesting for me to just sit and chat about them, give you my thoughts, let you know kind of how they went and a bit about what they're about. Starting off with book number 1, I read Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. I'm pretty sure I started reading this on release day, end of July. I don't even know where to begin with this book. So first of all, it's 520 pages, which is completely unnecessary. I know Penelope Douglas has a thing about writing these crazy long books. All her books seem to be at least 400 pages. Like the Devil's Night series is so long for no reason other than it is. I thought this was going to give credence, right? Any book you're thinking Penelope Douglas specifically called Five Brothers, like that's got to give credence, and it didn't. And it was kind of annoying because not that credence is good by any means, but it's credence. And I didn't rate that book highly, but I say to people it is very much a talking point, and it's one of those books that you don't forget and that is so kind of comical, ridiculous and unhinged that it becomes a talking point. And I thought this was going to be the same, but unfortunately it just didn't hit. I don't really know what else to say, and I honestly don't really remember a whole lot about it, which is speaking volumes. It was basically just 500 pages of chaos, but it was boring. The FMC lived in a town and there's 5 brothers and she basically ends up getting with each one of them, but it was very anticlimactic and it never really went anywhere and it was just boring. So it was such a letdown. I ended up giving it 2 stars and I was fully excited for this. I don't even think I ended up reading the epilogue just because I wasn't interested. And I've started doing that. If I'm not really interested in a book, I just won't read the epilogue. And there's a few this month where I just didn't read the epilogue. Next book we read, and I read this in a reading vlog, The Last Word by Taylor Adams. So Emma leaves a 1-star review on Amazon on a horror book, and essentially the author comes and kind of messes with her, plays tricks on her. Emma starts seeing figures and things keep happening. She's hearing noises. She's house sitting for this lady in this like big house, like scary house, and she's really freaked out, and it's kind of set over a couple of days. It's very fast-paced, very twisty, and you know what? I felt satisfied by this. It was a good, strong thriller and probably one of my favourite thrillers because the concept was so interesting and something I could relate to because I love writing my harsh Goodreads one-liners. So I'd highly recommend this if you're looking for a thriller, and as well, I'd recommend it if you're not a thriller mystery reader. It was very unique. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed. Next we read Do You Remember by Frida McFadden. This was basically, from what I can remember, so it was about a lady and she'd been in a car accident and she had some sort of brain trauma where once she would go to sleep for the night, she would wake up in the morning, she wouldn't know where she was, she wouldn't know what was going on, and her brain was stuck, I think it was 7 years in the past. So she had since been married. She didn't know who her husband was. She thought he was another guy who she used to date, and every morning he was like, read this letter, I am your husband, my name is whatever, and this is where you live now, you were in a car accident, your brain is damaged, like this is what's going on. And she keeps finding little notes she's left for herself and little things, and she's like, oh, like is this real? Is he playing a trick on me? She keeps things keep jogging her memory, and you don't know what's real, you don't know what's not, and it's a nice little like uncovering things. There's nothing special. It wasn't like a Frida McFadden usual book with the plot twists. It was very kind of like a traditional thriller. It wasn't anything too crazy. It was okay, it just had more potential, and I was expecting a Frida McFadden book going into it, and it didn't really give, like Housemaid, The Teacher, it didn't give that classic Frida McFadden energy. But it was still good. I still accepted it. I ended up giving it a 3.5. Honestly, I'm just trying to work my way through Frida McFadden's entire works, so I could take it or leave it, but it wasn't a bad book. Next I read A Brush with Love by Maisie Eddings. I just need a second, because this, I'm just gonna say, I think this was a 6-star read. I haven't fully committed to that yet. It's definitely a 5-star, hands down. Potentially a 6-star. And it's very interesting because this was rated really low on Goodreads, and I want to go into this saying, if you loved Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, this just generally, this on my TikTok is a Abby Jimenez fan page, specifically Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. If you liked that book, you will love this. Medical romance, like set in a medical hospital setting. This is set at a dental school. Anxiety representation. This time is with the FMC rather than the MMC in Yours Truly. And just that same sort of tone that's just so sweet, so delicate, so sincere, and just emotional. And I do think kind of this book will hit a lot harder if you can relate to parts of it, and personally it was like looking in a mirror, so you know, there were good grounds for that. But just the quotes in this book were beautiful, the writing was really emotional and just heartfelt, and I loved this book. This I'd probably say is the biggest like underdog of the year. I haven't seen one person talk about this, and everyone should be talking about it, so I'm gonna push this one on my TikTok because this was chef's kiss, phenomenal. Bit about the plot. Harper is a dental student and she is trying to get into a residency. She has always been a hard worker, strives for that academic validation, and essentially is This Is Me Trying and Miracle all piled into one. And she meets Dan, who was a first year dental student, and she accidentally crashes into him and he drops his model that he's made and it shatters into a million pieces, and she's like, no, it's fine, I'll help you remake it. So they then kind of meet up, remake this model, and their friendship builds from there. And Harper is very much, I need to focus on my school, I don't have time for a relationship, like let's just be friends, it's fine, I just don't have time for this. And he kind of respects that, but at the same time he's like silently and quietly showing her why they could be more than friends and why that would be good and why they would both benefit from that and it would actually make life better for her. It's very much the quiet love, same with Jacob from Yours Truly, it's very much that, and it's just beautiful. And for a Grey's Anatomy fan and just I like Friends to Lovers arc in general, this is a must read. Bonus points if you like the anxiety representation, because this was really good. Next I read Kissed by Shadows by Rosa Lee. I was reading this to fill the hole that Five Brothers was, and look, this was more the Credence vibe. Was it good? No. But look, who's to say? This was kind of an ick, but I feel like that's what Credence is. I just don't really remember anything about this book other than, like I said, it was giving Credence and it was like a mafia romance. The more I'm talking about it, the more I am remembering. So the FMC gets sold to some mafia family. Her dad sells her to this mafia family and this guy's like, she can't be with us, like we need to keep her safe, So a bunch of guys come and kind of steal her from the mafia family, but it's all arranged secretly. The boss doesn't know, but is secretly arranged so she can have a better life, and then she ends up getting in a relationship with the other guys. So look, it's giving Credence, but it's giving Credence. I don't know what else to say. Gave this a 2.25. It's bingeable, it gives the vibes, but you won't be thinking about this book. Well, maybe you will, but not for the right reasons. Next I read Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. I read this in my Reading Beach Reads reading vlog, so if you want the full vibes, go for that. But I've got my Goodreads up. My Goodreads review says the only reason you should read this book is if you are on a summer holiday in Italy, otherwise I wouldn't bother. This was nothing special. This was not a beach read to write home about. Basically, Lena's mother is dying. She's terminally ill. Her mother says to her, when I die, you are going to go to Italy. You're going to live with your father and you are going to experience Italy like I did when I was younger. And Lena's like, no, I I'm alright. And her mother's like, no, trust me, go to Italy. So she ends up going to Italy and she discovers her mother's old journals, and there's this mystery person in the journal called X, and she's trying to figure out who it is. It's basically one big mystery about her mother's life, but it's not really interesting. Kind of don't really care. There's no, not angst, but there's no, it's not gripping because it's just not interesting. Like, it would only be interesting if it was your family, for example. Because you don't really know a lot about the characters and you don't get much character analysis and character depth, it's hard to care. So yeah, that's kind of where I stood with this. I ended up giving it a 2.75. But like I said, if you're on holiday in Italy, this had phenomenal Italian vibes, but otherwise I wouldn't bother. I'm not reading the rest of the series. Then I read This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I have a bone to pick with this book and I don't want to sit and rant about it again because I've already done that in my reading vlog. So if you want to see me rant about this book, go and watch my Reading Beach Reads for a week in the UK. Me and this book, no, we're not compatible, and I don't think all of my friends that have read this book have also hated it, so I now know I'm not the problem. So basically, the two main characters, it is the FMC and then the FMC's best friend's brother, have a one-night stand 5 years ago, and they're like, no, we can't do this because the one rule the best friend gave, so the sister and the best friend gave, is that they can't fall in love with each other. So they're like, no, that's fine, we won't do that. Anyway, for the next 5 years, they kind of have intimate moments, they meet each other, they kiss, they do whatever, but they just never talk about anything. Until year 5, where they're like, no, like maybe we should talk about this. And then the whole book is basically them trying to convince each other that they're not just together for the intimate relations. And it's just the painful kind of miscommunication, but not the like, oh, painfully beautiful, like, oh my god, this is so difficult, like we can't be together but we really want to be. No, they just, it was bland. And I literally wrote bland, uncharismatic, and a dump truck of miscommunication. So right, honestly, I hated this book, and I don't think I've ever said that, and I know reading is subjective, but I hated this book. You may have a different opinion, but I really did not enjoy this, and I wish I had something else to say, but no, I hated this. I gave it a 1.25. I'm not sorry, and no, I didn't read the epilogue. I was gonna DNF it at 80-90%, and I was like, no, finish it. If you finish it, you don't have to read the epilogue, and that's the bargain I made with myself. Next, I read Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. This was super highly anticipated, and I really enjoyed this. Ali is newly divorced, her husband has left her, her mother died a few years ago, she has kids, she's trying to be a single mom, she's trying to raise the kids, and she's struggling. Bestie is in the trenches, she's trying to take care of herself, trying to take care of her kids, trying to just do everything at once, and she is not in a good place. She finally decides, right, she's going to take her ring off, try and bring her life back together. She goes to the dog park with her dog and she meets this guy called Ethan. And they end up hitting it off, they go on a date, and they slowly start being brought together. And Ali's very against it. She's like, no, like, I'm not ready for a relationship, like, I can't be in a relationship. We live not near each other, but he's helping his parents or something move house, or he doesn't live where Ali lives. And very vulnerable and very raw and just very realistic of the struggles of being a single mom. And it was, yeah, impossible not to be immersed in this story. It was a page turner. I flew through this. And honestly, Annabelle Monaghan is becoming one of my favourite authors very quickly. I've read 2 of her books, and they've both been 4-star+, so I'm super excited to read Same Time Next Summer, which I haven't read yet, but this is definitely my favourite by her so far. I would highly recommend. This was beautiful, and it just has a certain style of writing that just itches my brain in a way. Like, think, it's very similar to Emily Henry. This vibe, the summer vibe, the vulnerable vibe, and just the emotional turmoil. So yeah, I ended up giving this a 4.5. Love this book. And last but certainly not least, I think I can't decide whether this or A Brush with Love was my favourite read of the month. I think potentially this. The last book I read and the most recent book I read, Daydream by Hannah Grace, and also this Waterstone special edition. Can we just talk about it? This is the third book in the Maple Hills series, and it is Henry's book. If you've read Icebreaker or Wildfire, it's Henry's book. I just want to start off by saying I read this in a reading vlog that's coming out, so we're not going to get too into depth, but Hallie is a book girl. She has her own book club. She works at a bookstore. She is a studier. She loves to read. She loves to learn. And Henry is on the hockey team. He is now the captain of the hockey team, and he is struggling. He is failing one of his classes, and he doesn't particularly like being captain, and he struggles with the role, he struggles with the responsibility, and he just wants to play hockey kind of for fun and not have the weight of captaincy on him. I could not stop like having moments of crying during this book. It hit me in like the perfect way, and I think I found both the characters relatable, and there were just little things that I kept thinking, wow, I really relate to that. Hallie cut her hair short, and like 2 days before I'd cut my hair short, and she had a childhood obsession with The Sims. I had a childhood obsession with The Sims. So just little things like that were just kind of getting me. She's very much a people pleaser, and this book hit home, and I don't think it would hit the same if you didn't relate to the characters as much as I did, but it was still a very, very strong book, and 100% my favourite out of all three. This book was the embodiment of This Is Me Trying. And I don't think there is a book that exists that I can say relates to that song more than this. Hallie has had a really difficult past relationship, and it was kind of a friends to lovers situation, so kind of a family friends to lovers situation. So she's still seeing her ex, she's having to deal with her parents, and they're kind of saying, no, give it another try, and she's struggling with that because she doesn't want to be with him. And she meets Henry through kind of mutual friends and things, and she ends up helping him in the class that he's failing in, and they start off as friends, but they end up getting closer. She hasn't really had much experience with dating, she's very reserved, and he kind of takes her on dates and things, and they just end up getting closer. And it's not the kind of friends to lovers where there's the denying of feelings and the, oh, like, we shouldn't be together, it's gonna ruin the friendship. Like, this is just accepting, and I haven't read a book like that in a while, and it was refreshing, and I love that. So highly recommend. I gave this a 5 stars. Potential to be up to 6, but we're sticking with 5 stars for the moment. Highly recommend. This only just came out, so definitely go and read this if you haven't already. That is all the 9 books that I read in the month of August. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, there's lots of reading vlogs coming, including the reading vlog that has Daydreaming and other new releases. Watch out for that, that should be out maybe next week, I'm not sure. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you when I see you. Bye!